Jamye, it's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Elisha. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Beautiful. Yeah, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate it. And you see, Jamye, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become an anthem for me. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invested in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Jamie, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it
Mm,
and I went my way. But just recently, Jamie, I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my
mm.
attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes, I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely moment that day. I was so excited, my man. Here's my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Jamie that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, the impact your work is having, your philosophies, your insight, how you are offering your solutions. This stuff's amazing. And just before I sent you the request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Jamia is doing. Not only me now, but even the audience. And here we had a day with the amazing Jamia. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
That's very humbling for to hear that, and I appreciate it. I don't think often it's hard for people, or at least it's hard for me to take compliments. I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to recognize greatness inside of them. So I appreciate and I'm humbled by your words. So thank you.
Beautiful, my man. And thank you for the beautiful stuff that you're doing. It's amazing, I tell you. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today, Jamie, for two reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our
Mm,
conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason I'm excited to have the amazing Jamie on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, my man, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Jamie, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Jamie got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, my man, over to you.
Thank you so much again for the kind words. What brought me here today, living in this country as a young child, um, in a social context that historically in this country has been experiencing negative impacts of the institution of slavery, um, and what that has done to me and for me, because I count it as a blessing, not just something that is a detriment. What it's done to me is um, helped me be aware of all of the different ways that people um, have been corrupted. You see, I think humanity inherently actually wants to love. We know if you look at a child or a baby, they don't see color. They see whether or not their mom is there to comfort them, is there to hold them, is accepting them, is loving them, is taking care of them. And over time, us humans, we've corrupted that nature of acceptance and longing and love and replaced it with things like money and power and control. And unfortunately, going back to the historical institution of slavery, for my social context, that corruption has been devastating. Um, and in many, many ways, not just physical, but certainly on the spiritual side. Um, and when I say spiritual, I'm talking also synonymously speaking of mental health, whereas folks like me have a hard time getting confidence in themselves, having self value, having self worth. Um, and I was always of the type, Elisha, that I was going to buck the system. So I was never going to let or allow anything to limit me, even despite the circumstances that we faced as I faced as a young child and my family faced. So I needed to figure out a way to do it. And I had a couple choices. I could go the angry route and I could go the anti kind of social route where I was either used violence or crime to kind of state my own superiority or assert my own level of superiority, right? Using crime and drugs or whatever to kind of build status. Or I could really try to figure out what is it about people um, that would cause them to use their privilege to disenfranchise or negatively impact another group of people. And that's the mission I chose. I wanted to find out because I had relationships with people of all different ilks. Um, and they were good relationships, but I could never figure out why on the macro level it was so different. Um, and that led me to the empathy gap and just realizing that on a macro level, um, people aren't courageously embarking on that journey of empathy, getting to know individuals beyond the social context that we've been conditioned to believe um, that those people deserve, or what we've been conditioned to believe about human value based on extrinsic characteristics like skin color and things like that. And throughout my career, it's just something has been propelling me. My initial studies actually were in pastoral ministries, um, and although that was great, I knew it wasn't for me at the time. Um, but I knew that God would still work through me in some way, and I feel like this is that way where He's helping me bring awareness, teaching, insight, hopefully wisdom, hopefully to other people to help bring them back to that original state of love and acceptance, and truly forgiveness. And that's kind of what has led me to write my book, be in the career that I'm currently in, etc., and obviously led me to your great work here on this podcast. So I'm really excited to talk through those things today.
Beautiful, my man. You see, listening to you speak is as though you shouldn't even stop talking because inside all of your words are these incredible stuffs to learn. And the part where you mentioned that you decided not to go through the wrong route and to
Mm.
instead study why these guys are doing these negative stuffs and the amazing things you're doing. I love it. Okay, so let's begin first with this one. I'm curious about what is universal human essence? Can you talk to us about that?
Mm. Yeah, I alluded to it a little bit. It's really the belief that we are all connected. I feel like um, what I've experienced is that when we see something different or unusual, and I'll just use the social construct of race for now because it's easy. It's an easy tool for this type of conversation. But when I see a white person, or even now, when I see a white person or somebody in a different social context, my brain will tell me all of the things that it thinks I need to know about that person based on everything I've learned up until that point, right? Everything I've been told, everything I've seen on television, everything I've been conditioned to believe, experience, etc. And that disconnects me from that person's humanity. What it connects me to my brain waves and how my brain processes information, but it doesn't connect me to that person. And so the universal human essence is this idea that we all have a connection among each other, regardless of our skin color, our ability, our intellect, all of the extrinsic things that people apply or use to apply value. Um, and that really is this idea that when we're born into the world, we desire love and we desire to be loved. So we want to love other people. We want to be loved, and that connects us. That's the universal human essence.
Wow, I got that. So, do you have any personal story, maybe, that shaped your view on shared humanity? Got any?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot. I have tons. I'll share two. Um,
Okay.
one is quick. One is quick. One is not. So about 3 years ago, I live in a state in Wisconsin where it's very our winters are can be fun. They lots of snow, lots of ice, lots of sleet. At any rate, and it's very rural, so roads are not always maintained well. At any rate, traveling with my family in the vehicle, slipped on a patch of ice and landed in a ditch, essentially. And this is a very rural area in Wisconsin. I'm probably the only person that looks like me within 20 square miles or more. And immediately, Elisha, I tell you, like our social context, our programming would tell me like nobody's gonna stop to help me. Like it wasn't even in my frame of reference, to be quite honest. I wasn't even thinking get help. I was thinking call the tow truck, right? But immediately when I went into the ditch, three white families stopped, a father and a son, another older gentleman, and then just a husband and wife stopped. And then all the men got out, including the son, and helped me push my car out of this ditch. And I say that just in reference to this universal human essence piece, right? Like at that point in time, they found the courage, they found the humility, the empathy to be able to say, regardless of whatever I've been conditioned to believe about this person's social context, the drive in my spirit is telling me to help them, right? So that's one experience among many that I know for sure that the universal human essence is part and parcel of who we are. Um, and then has been, like I said, corrupted over time. But in that particular instance, it was on full display. The earlier version of the universal human essence is a little bit more I don't want to say personal, but it was a little bit more indicative, I think, of the transformative power of reaching back and finding your universal human essence. So when I was in high school, I went to a school. It was predominantly white institution. It was a boarding school, so I lived there, and I was fairly popular kid. My friends looked up to me. I was the student body president, the class president, all those things, right? But there was still some um, contextual differences between me and my peers. There happened to be another friend of mine who was also black, and I was sitting in my room, and all of a sudden I heard like a gaggle of footsteps like running towards my door. And my friends opened the door and they're like, "Hey, Jamye, sit down. Like, don't get angry. Don't be upset." And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about?" Right? Like, and they're super nervous. I had never seen this look on their faces before. And they told me that one of my friends had called the other black kid the N word, a nigger. And in that moment, right, there were so many emotions in my head, right? Like anger, rage, sadness, disappointment, dissatisfaction, like all of these emotions were kind of flowing through me. And as I told them to take me to where this took place, because apparently my friend Dietrich, the black kid, was crying, and the other kid Mike was still there. And so I didn't know if they were like fighting or what was actually happening. So I'm like, take me there. And as I'm walking, I realize like this is a moment where a gap, an empathy gap, can either be bridged or we can continue this cycle of division, right? Like I could get upset, call them a racist, beat them up, whatever, or we could have a conversation about what prompted this behavior, um, find out whether or not, because those two guys were friends, like, is it truly that your friendship has ended, the relationship between your humanity has ended, such that this event would cause irreparable damage, right? And that's the route that I chose. So we sat down and we had a conversation about like, you know, people come into their behaviors sometimes honestly. Like Mike, he didn't wake up and think, "Oh, I'm going to call Dietrich this word." Right? That was a product of his parents teaching, his echo chambers, people in his community. He learned that from somewhere. And in a moment of emotional, you know, rage, he used that language. And so having that conversation with them about like the act doesn't always it mean that the person is evil. The evil act doesn't always equate to the evil person, and that forgiveness can sometimes be like that way to bring connection and bring folks back together. Um, that was the approach that we took and that I took mediating that conversation. And that was probably the first time that I realized that this universal human essence, the corruption of our universal human essence, could actually be transcended, that we can actually intervene on our heart's behalf. We can say, you know what, that thing happened. Yes, it did. Does that mean you're no longer human? Does that mean that you're no longer worthy of being called my friend? Is there room for grace? Is there room for understanding? Is there room for accountability and apology? And if all of those are yes, then there's room for growth. And that's what I think our world is really missing. We kind of skip over the human connection part, and a lot of times we just go straight to anger. We go straight to how can I get revenge or zero sum, kinds of paradigms of thinking where if you get something, then that means I don't get something. And if I get the thing, then you can't get the thing. But there is a space where we can all win. And I think that's something that we have to remember.
Beautiful, profound stories. And thank you for sharing that with us. The evil act doesn't equate the evil person. I think I got that. You see, I would have to listen to our conversation again and again. You said a whole lot, and I need time to process it all.
Well, Elisha, if I could just follow up just quickly.
Yeah,
So, to put that more simply or in a different way, is like, I know that I cause harm. I have not been a great, the perfect human. Like, I have traumatized people, I've caused harm to people. And so, for me to get past that, I have to forgive myself, right? And so, the way that I feel is I'm obligated then to give that grace to someone else. If I can give it to myself and I don't think I'm evil, I should be able to give that grace and love and peace to someone else who's harmed me also.
That's so true, and I got that. So to bring this to an end, my man, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to make a purchase of your amazing book, reach out to you, learn more about everything we've discussed so far. How can that be possible?
My final thought would be um, empathy takes courage, but it's worth it. The things that we miss out because we're afraid to connect with people who might be different with us are immeasurable. The genius, the artistry, the creativity, the innovation, the invention of our world, of our human race is being immeasurably suppressed because we don't have the courage to reach out and connect with other people. So I would tell your audience to do that as much as they can with authenticity and empathy. And folks, if they would like to read more about the philosophy, they can go to www.evolveyourwe.com, and the book and other resources are there for folks to take advantage of.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, my man. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot, my man. Thank you.
It's been an honor, Elisha.